Welcome to the Swish List Podcast, where we talk all things basketball. Hosted by two brothers, Moses and Roman. Let's get into it. What up, everybody? Welcome in. It's episode 10 of the Swish List Podcast. I'm Moses. He's Roman. We have so much to talk to you guys about this week. It's been too long. We took a week off. Roman was out in Lake Powell enjoying himself. But don't worry, guys. I've been on the grind. I have kept my ear to the ground listening to all NBA news so that when we got back, we'd have some good stuff for you. But let's talk about some of these topics that we've got for you today. Like I said, we have so much to get into. We're going to talk about some very interesting things that you may not have heard about as far as contracts are concerned. By this point, a lot of free agency has calmed down. And so I want to analyze a couple contracts. There's some really cool things in there that I think you guys will enjoy. We're going to talk about the in-season tournament. We're going to have some discussions about a couple teams in the NBA. We're going to look at the Suns. We're going to look at Portland. What are they doing? We're going to talk about the Nuggets. And then we've got to talk about some players as well. Paul George's name might float around in this podcast. Close things out by discussing the Summer League. And like I said, we've got so much to talk to you guys about today. Roman, are you excited for this episode?
Very excited, feeling well rested, and happy to get into the topics.
I'm glad this guy's well rested. What you guys don't know is Roman. He's the only person in our family that could have waves. If you don't know what waves are, it's a hairstyle. Go Google it. He's got waves right now. They're not crispy yet. It's the first time, but it really feels like a slap in the face to me that he can do it so nonchalantly. Because when I was in high school, I bought the brush. I had all the hair product. I brushed my hair so much. I think I started to get dandruff because I was convinced by some YouTube video that I could train my hair enough. And sadly, that's not in the cards for me, but it is for Roman. So he comes back from Lake Powell, nice tan, got waves, very disrespectful on the podcast. But before we get into any NBA news, I want to pose a question to you. And anybody that's listening, I want to hear your answer. Please, at SwishListPod, we're on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Threads. We're on Threads if you're on that new trend. We're on all social media platforms. So please send us a message. We want to hear your answer to this question. And this comes up because Travis Scott finally, after what feels like a lifetime, announced his new album, Utopia, is coming out at the end of the month, July 28th, I believe. It brings up this question for me, Roman. I'm going to ask you this. If you were stranded on an island and you could only listen to one album, what album do you choose?
See, it feels like a no-brainer, but I'm a big believer in Kanye, so I know what I think I'm going to go with. But then I thought, like, you know this, I love Michael Jackson. So I was thinking about one of his albums, but Michael's albums is more one of the like solo albums. So
Mhm.
that's just like constantly Michael. So I'm going to have to go with Graduation. I think Graduation is like perfect album. I love Kanye. He's my favorite rapper. I listen to him more than any other rapper. And I think Graduation's got perfect features. There's not a song that I don't like on that album. I mean, every single song is great. And there's different types of songs on that album, like Homecoming. You get Coldplay, the singing in that song. And then you got like Stronger, obviously one of the greatest songs of all time. And then you got like The Glory. You got Most Def in there. I love him. There's just so many great songs in that album. So I have to go Graduation.
You know what? Graduation is a pretty great pick. You're not wrong. Just about every single song on that album is a classic. I'm not big on a couple of those tracks like you are, but I feel like if I say that, people are gonna think I'm a hater. But
Oh
America,
no,
I'm not.
I know
I'm
you
not a
don't like
hater.
Drunken Hot Girls. I
No,
think
I
it,
don't
that's
like that song. I don't think it's good at all. That song is
I
not
love
good.
that
That
song.
song is trash. I'm sorry. That song is trash. The album is incredible. The album's great. It's an all-timer. Old Kanye has to be America's favorite Kanye, in my opinion. But that's not the album of my choice. Kanye is not the artist of my choice either, even though he's definitely up there for me. If I'm picking one album to listen to for the rest of my life, it's Victory Lap by Nipsey Hussle. That is that is it's I know it's not your album, it's my album,
I
man.
forget how much of a Nipsey fan you are.
What's so tragic is Nipsey had made music for quite a long time before that album came out, but that really was his coming out party on the mainstream. And it's so sad that he lost his life before he could really see the fruits of that labor to the fullest. But That album to me is my favorite album of all time. Every single track on the album is money, dude. It's just money. I make it a point, if one of those songs comes up when I'm shuffling through my music, I never skip. Never. Not in the 5 years since that album came out. That is 100% my choice. If you would pick something different, I wanna know what you would choose. I really do. Let me know in the comment section. Send us a DM. We're curious. You can only listen to one album for the rest of your life, stranded on an island. What would you choose? Because it's not about one song. You can't just pick your favorite song. You really want to get the most bang for your buck. You want to stretch that out as much as you can. So those are our choices. Graduation by Kanye West and Victory Lap by Nipsey Hussle. If you haven't listened to either one of those albums, please listen to them after this podcast. Do not leave right now. Okay. Wait until the end and go listen to those two albums. They're some of our favorites. All right. Let's get back to basketball. I want to start by talking about some incredible NBA contracts and arguably one of the most petty moves I think I have ever seen from an NBA GM. There's a lot of big name players have moved around, a lot of crazy contracts, and we'll get into some of those. But I'm actually going to start with talking about Paul Reed of all people. We're going to start with Paul Reed. So the Utah Jazz offered Paul Reed a contract. Okay. And in this deal, it's a 1 year deal that has an option that extends the contract. So here's the deal. He was a restricted free agent and he signed a 3 year, $23 million offer sheet with the Utah Jazz. Now, this gave the 76ers the option to match the contract, but the incentives built into the deal are very interesting. So the first season of the contract is fully guaranteed, and the following 2 seasons become fully guaranteed if Reed's team advances to the conference semifinals in the 2023-2024 season. And if you watched basketball at all this past year, you know that the Utah Jazz have a 0% chance of making it to the conference finals. We're sorry, Utah fans out there. But you know who has a great chance of making it? The 76ers. So Danny Ainge literally writes a contract that if Philly matches, they're locked in for 3 years. And if he signs with the Jazz, it's a 1 year deal. It is absolute genius GM work from Danny Ainge. It's the entire reason why the Utah Jazz, as an organization, decided to bring him in. Roman, I don't know if I've heard of a more savvy move this offseason by a front office.
I didn't even know that incentives could be matched when it comes to matching a contract, but it's just genius by Danny Ainge, and I love Danny Ainge as a GM. I mean, you just look at the work that he did for the Celtics to make them the contender that they are today with the young core that they have. I'm hoping he does the same with the Jazz, being from Utah. This contract is just it's hilarious. It's perfect. It's a stroke of genius from him, and we don't see this too often, so it's really funny to highlight something like this happening.
It's genius work from the Utah Jazz. Danny Ainge, yet again, another offseason, making very savvy moves. This is coming off of his incredible Rudy Gobert deal that he fleeced the Timberwolves with last season. The guy is a legend in my book. Now, you wanted to talk about a couple other players in particular, or maybe some other teams. Where do you want to start, Roman?
The Suns. I love what the Suns are doing. And we came into the offseason like these guys don't have a bench at all. What are they going to do? But it seems that we have a lot of these guys taking major pay cuts to play with the players that we want. The player that I want to highlight is Utah Watanabe. He was teammates with Kevin Durant on the Nets, one of the best three-point shooters in the league last year. And they could really use him on that team. And he specifically, I don't know if he exactly said this, but it was something along the lines of, I'm going to take a pay cut to be on this team and be a contender.
Mhm.
And another guy is Eric Gordon, who has been great in the NBA for the past, 15 years. And you have multiple guys like this just taking pay cuts, taking a 2 year, $10 million deal when they could be earning 10 million a year plus on the team that they choose to go to. But you have guys taking these major pay cuts to play for the Suns and make their role players around those three main players a perfect situation for them. Going into next season, I'd be really scared of the Suns.
The Phoenix Suns, it's another great example of incredible GM work. I don't know if you picked up on this. This is kind of level 2 of what the Phoenix Suns have been doing. What I can respect about the Suns is they have a plan. They didn't go get Bradley Beal and then not have a plan for what they were going to do. So here are their acquisitions: Josh Okogie, Damian Lee, Keta Bates Diop, Drew Eubanks, Eric Gordon, and Yuta Watanabe. Now, some of these guys are going to play, some of these guys are not. But what you can respect is they went after players that were up, minus Josh Okogie, were above average 3-point shooters, above NBA average. So they're surrounding the team with shooting, which is a big deal. But not only that, it's the type of contracts that all of these players signed. Raja Bell actually talked about this, I want to say on a podcast recently, where he said that when you sign a veteran minimum, oftentimes that can be the end of your career, depending on how the organization chooses to play you. If you sign a veteran minimum, to sign a contract above that is near impossible. You sign the veteran minimum, if they choose to not play you any minutes, the next year you're probably out of the league. But the Suns didn't do that for these players. They brought these guys in and they said, hey, look, we're going to give you veteran minimum type money, but we're going to set you up on a 2-year player option type contract. And what that essentially does is it basically gives these players almost a no trade clause where they have a player option after year one. So if the Phoenix Suns say, here, Eric Gordon, we're going to send you to the Washington Wizards. And he goes, no, I'm not going to opt into the second year of my deal. Well, then why would Washington want to pick him up as a player? Right. So they've given an assurance to these players that they will be playing for Phoenix this season. And if they're not, they control their own destiny coming out of the first year of the contract. And it's not the traditional 1-year veteran minimum. So it still gives them NBA life as far as their careers are concerned. So I have a massive respect for the moves that they made as far as role players go, targeting players that are above average 3-point shooters and setting these players up for success as far as the contracts that they're being offered. This is very savvy GM work. It's exactly what you'd want to see from a team if they're being this aggressive to win a championship. I am very big on the Phoenix Suns coming out of what I've seen them do this offseason. I wasn't as much after the Bradley Beal trade because I didn't see the plan, but I can very clearly see it now. And this was great work by them.
It's that win now mentality.
Now, if we're going to talk about a team that I really question the moves that they made, probably more than any other organization in the league, it's the Rockets. I feel like they gave a couple guys way too much money. Now, a lot of people are going to talk about the Dylan Brooks contract, which originally we thought was an $80 million deal at $20 million a year. Word on the street is with incentives, it can get up to 90 plus, which is wild. What I don't want to do is start pocket watching players. Okay. I want to give a lot of respect to these guys for being out and being able to get these deals. It's big for them. Shout out to their agents. It's generational money. And so shout out to these players. But what I want to look more at is these organizations and the decisions that they made. And what I don't see is the vision from the Houston Rockets, because Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet are some of the worst scorers by percentage in the league when you're talking about field goal percentage. You just signed an undersized point guard to a massive deal, and you signed a quote unquote poke the bear defensive specialist to a very significant amount of money. Now they had the money because they've got so much young talent, but they also went and broke up their young core. Some of the players that got moved, I think they were good moves. You got to break up the Josh Christopher, Jalen Breen duo because they seem like they were more than friends.
A bit too connected, if you will.
A bit too connected, if you will. But they did ship off some of their other young talent. So it has me questioning Ime Udoka down there. What are you actually trying to accomplish here? I don't see the vision. What are your thoughts on the Rockets?
Yeah, it's basically the same here. There's a reason that the Grizzlies didn't want to give Dylan Brooks a new contract, especially for the money he was asking for. And I think giving this guy $20 million a year is just, I shouldn't say insane, but it's just super unlikely that he's worth that in a few years. I mean, we saw how he performed in the playoffs. Dylan can shoot sometimes, but other times he looks like he can't see the hoop at all. And I don't think that's the type of guy that you want to guarantee him for that long with the type of player that we all know that he is. It's very interesting. So I was assuming he would get a 1-year, maybe 2-year deal with the team just to see how he did for that year. Like if it was really worth it to take on the media, the way he speaks to the media for his defensive presence that they talk about and below average shooting most of the time. But I did not expect this guy to get $80 million. And with Fred VanVleet, I don't know. I know he was an all-star. I know he got a ring with the Raptors and he's been great. but I saw some tweet that said this guy's getting paid more than his shooting percentage.
Yeah.
And it's true. He's undersized. He's great at shooting, but for almost 45 million a year, it's unbelievable money. Good for him for getting paid, but I don't know what the Rockets see in that for 3 years at that much money.
One of the other things that we have to look at is the back half of some of these supermax deals. Karl Anthony Towns is going to make over 60 million on the back half of his deal. You got players that are approaching the mid 60s that are your top level talent. The LaMelo contract, the Anthony Edwards contract, by the end of those contracts, those players are going to be making upwards of over $60 million. Okay. So when we look at the Fred Van Vliet contract today, I agree. It does look very high, but at 40 to 43, 45 million, it's still 15 to 20 million less than what those top level players are going to be getting paid by the end of the deal. And so to your point, this year it doesn't make sense. I do think that by the end of this contract, it's still going to be a bad contract regardless because of who the player is. But the dollar amount in comparison to some of these deals that are being signed is what I think some people are missing. You hear the total amount of LaMelo's contract and you hear the per year amount of Fred Van Vliet's contract. And that's intentional by the media. Paul George talked about his first big deal was 90 million. He just had Tyrese Halliburton on. Tyrese got 264 million, I believe, in his contract. Right. So this is the general trend of the league. I'm happy that the players can get paid. To be fair, to your point, I still think it's a bad deal. I think Fred Van Vliet for that dollar amount is not a good contract, but you're about to see 45 million not be what it used to be 2, 3 years ago. As we keep moving in the direction that we are, and it feels like the only guys getting paid more money from inflation are these professional players. When is the working class going to see this inflation flow through? I don't know, but you're going to see a lot of guys get Dylan Brooks type deals because the top level players are making 3 times that. So it's just something to keep in mind. Speaking of a player that chased money, the Nuggets star off the bench this postseason was Bruce Brown. He left, he signed with the Pacers, got himself paid. Shout out to him for getting the bag. But you don't like his move as much.
I mean, I don't understand it. This guy seems like he wants to win. He found the perfect spot with the Nuggets. Wonderful role player. Really helped them win that championship. Was instrumental in that playoff run. And the chemistry's there. Everything's working out. I mean, you even had your head coach at your parade saying, "Is Bruce going anywhere?" No, we're keeping Bruce. He's not going anywhere. And then like a week later, he signs with the Pacers. I know the money's great and everything, but isn't the goal to win? I can't understand coming off a championship and leaving your team. I say the same thing for Kawhi Leonard, winning with the Raptors and then leaving. Like it's the same type of thing for me. I just don't like it when these instrumental players win and then they just end up chasing a bag. What is your goal of playing basketball? Is it just for the money? I thought it was for the love of the game, and winning is what's gonna make you love the game the most, but I don't know. I just don't like the move to go to the Pacers.
Hey, man, not everybody's built for winning rings. Look at what James Harden's doing. Kawhi had won multiple championships by the time he finished his run in Toronto. He wanted to go home. He wanted to go to LA. That's where he's from. So his move, I think I can understand. Bruce Brown, it really felt like he was a part of the city where he was big country coming in cowboy hats and all these different talking about how much country music he listens to. Seemed like he was a great fit in Denver. I don't know what he's looking for. Maybe he wants a more expanded role, something he's never going to see in Denver. He's never going to be a starter in Denver. There's no way. And if he actually wants to start and maybe continue his progression in the league, this might have been the only way for him to do that. Because sure, everybody loves winning, but maybe he doesn't want to win a ring from the bench. Maybe he wants to really try and see if he can get himself a starting role. And we'll see how things shake out with the Pacers roster. I'm not saying he's a starter, but what I also think that people need to do is pump the brakes on saying that Denver got so much worse. What I think people need to be careful of is thinking you have to win in July to win the championship the following season. July isn't everything. Look at what the Lakers did last year. I know they didn't win a ring, but look at the odds that they had of even making the playoffs, given how they started the season and the moves they made at the trade deadline allowed them to make it to the Western Conference Finals. If you're Denver and you have a strong core, you don't need to make any aggressive moves. Players are going to be available from now until the trade deadline. When I'm looking at Denver, I think it's okay if maybe they regressed a little bit. Maybe they're hoping for a little bit more progression from Christian Brown. Maybe they're looking at some of their draft picks. Maybe they just want to see what the NBA looks like going into next season, and then they'll make some adjustments as they go. Today, their roster is not as good, but the NBA playoffs are not tomorrow either. And so I can see maybe Bruce Brown wanting to continue to grow his role, and it was never going to expand in Denver. And everybody that's calling out the Denver Nuggets today, it just pump the brakes a little bit. A player's name that is getting bounced around right now in trade talks is Paul George, actually, which has been surprising. His name has come out in the Philly deal. His name's been connected to Damian Lillard. It is interesting how many of these young kids, though, model their game after Paul George. You looked at Carmelo Anthony's son, just said some of the very same things that Brandon Miller said. Where he said Paul George is his GOAT in terms of that's who he looks as the model, as the standard. You're closer to that generation than me. Where do you think that comes from? What do they see in Paul George?
Everything. Obviously, we don't look at defense as much in our generation, but Paul George is one of those best defenders at defending 1 through 5. He can do it all. But then you look at his offensive end, he's got the handle at the size that he is.
Oh, for sure.
And he's one of the smoothest players that I've ever seen play basketball. He can shoot the ball like none other. He can dunk the ball like none other. He is the full package. He may not have the accolades that some people have, but he has everything that every kid would want. I mean, when you make a 2K build, like all these kids who play basketball, like they play 2K, and your ideal 2K build would be a guy who can shoot, a guy who can dribble, a guy who can dunk, and a guy who has speed, who can play defense at over 6'5". And you've got Paul George at 6'9". So I think it makes sense that these people look at him as the ideal, because when creating a basketball player, that's who you would want to model your game after. And nobody does it smoother than Paul George, in my opinion.
I think that Paul George is also a more realistic. I mean, his athleticism is amazing, but outside of that, it's attainable. It's really hard to say you want to grow up and be like LeBron James, because the size, the speed, the athleticism is something that we've really never seen before coming into the league. So it's hard to say you want to model your game after LeBron James. Michael Jordan, same thing. 50-inch vertical, doing stuff that nobody had ever seen before. Sure, I want to be like Mike is a thing, but Paul George does feel more realistic for some of these younger players, that that's a level that they could get to, that he has a more complete game. Because I agree, they're outside of maybe him being him showing up in clutch moments. Outside of that, that's probably the biggest knock on him professionally. He really does have everything in his game. He's a great player. And not only has he been a great talent, but it seems like the league gravitates towards Paul George. His podcast is doing incredibly well. I really hope that we get to see, like, I want the Clippers to work. I want them to be in the finals, because I believe that Paul George is a player that deserves to win it all and be there when the final buzzer sounds at the end of the season. So I think it is interesting, but what you said makes a lot of sense. It makes sense.
It would be cool though to see him in like a 3-team trade. Like you were saying, like maybe Dame goes somewhere, Paul George goes somewhere, and like picks go somewhere. But seeing Paul George on another team would be interesting.
Yeah, so you bring up Damian Lillard. It's basically him and James Harden are all that's left in free agency. I don't really want to get into the James Harden thing. There's not a lot of news coming out of that. But with Damian Lillard, there are a lot of conversations right now. A lot of conversations. His camp is saying that if he doesn't make it to the Miami Heat, he won't play. But Portland is not interested in a Tyler Hero deal. And I don't think they should be interested in a Tyler Hero deal. I think it's very smart of them to not want Tyler Hero for Damian Lillard. So it's kind of messy right now in Portland. And I've been on this for months. I've been on this for months. A lot of people were telling me I was wrong when I said when Dame listed his house, it meant he was leaving. I showed everybody all the moves in the playbook. They told me I was crazy. Here we are. He's finally said he wants to trade. This is going back to a conversation I had, I want to say back in May. I believe that the Boston Celtics have the best chance of landing Damian Lillard. I think they should land Damian Lillard. I think they should trade Jaylen Brown and get Dame. It's a better fit in Boston, and it's a great fit for Jaylen in Portland. He gets to have his own team. Scoot Henderson can rise with an all NBA level player. The money makes sense for both teams. And there are reports coming out of Boston that they're preparing for a big move. We don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, they need to go get Dame.
I like the way you think. I remember you saying this months ago, and I kind of wrote it off too. Like, I don't think they would get rid of Jaylen Brown talks, but it seems like it really could happen. It's just from the Trailblazers standpoint, I'm seeing lots of things saying that they're not on the same page with Lillard. Dame wants to go specific ways, but the Trailblazers are accepting all types of offers from every team if they're given the right amount of draft picks or the right player. To me, it seems like they don't really care what Dame wants at this point. As much respect as they have for him, they still want to get what they want to get out of their franchise, so they're going to get what Dame is worth in return. And I think a Jaylen Brown trade makes sense. I mean, you've got Dame who's older and I feel like better than Jaylen Brown, but you've got Jaylen Brown who's younger, can still be developed into one of the best players in the league, especially with the Trailblazers. So that trade I think would be great. The Celtics would be scary with Dame, JT, and Porzingis. That's a lot of offense on that team. And the Trailblazers would get one of the best young talents in the NBA, especially with signing their new contract with Grant. They've got him for a long time. So getting a young star would be great for the Trailblazers, and getting a player that can help them win now would be great for the Celtics.
I also think that Dame is too good of a guy. What I think that his camp is doing, they're just posturing. Dame's going to play wherever he goes. You think if he goes to the Boston Celtics, a team that was in the finals and the Eastern Conference Finals, you think he would just sit out and not play? It's ridiculous. I get it. Dame's trying to get to his final destination. And in a couple of years, we're never going to talk about this again. We're never going to bring up the fact that he forced his way out of Portland, but it's just posturing for him. And I also think that Portland is making a very smart decision. This is the whole reason why they were having a Mexican standoff. Who's going to say they want to do the trade first? Dame did. Now Portland gets to say, we're not the bad guys here. We're not the bad guys here, fans. We're going to get you the best deal we possibly can. This is really good for Portland. They also have, in my opinion, Scoot Henderson's going to be a great player. And so they have the best opportunity to build a very strong core around Anthony Simons and Scoot, along with Jeremy Grant on a long-term deal. They've talked about trading Nurkic, which I think could make sense. And I love the fact that they didn't just go ahead and take the first Miami deal. They're forcing Pat Riley to say, hey, if you want Dame, go find somebody else. You go try and find somewhere that Tyler Hero is going to go. I think Tyler Hero is a terrible trade piece. I don't know where all this love is coming for Tyler Hero. Like, the fact that he would ever be in the same conversation as Damian Lillard is flat out disrespectful. I love what Portland is doing. And you can't tell me a better deal in my eyes today than going out and getting Jaylen Brown for Portland. Jaylen Brown, I think, can still progress. He's a great defender. He'd be the perfect player to work with Scoot Henderson as a perimeter player. You can go Scoot, Anthony Simons, Jaylen Brown, Jeremy Grant, Nurkic. That's a very strong core of 5 players that can win some serious games. I think it's a great deal, and I will stand on that. And all you people out there that said I was so wrong for predicting movement in Portland, I kept the receipts. I kept the receipts. Okay, let's talk about the summer league. This is kind of the fun time of the year where you get to see a lot of young talent play. The summer league, I think, is better to watch now than it's ever been because you didn't watch a lot of these guys play in college. So this is really the first time you're getting exposure to Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, some of these young players. Now, I think what we have to do, people, is don't overreact just because somebody drops 30 in the summer league. Okay, it doesn't mean your team's going to win the championship. It doesn't mean you found the next Steph Curry. Let's just relax a little bit. But let's talk about the summer league a little bit. Roman, you've watched quite a bit of it, especially today. What things have stood out for you?
I want to talk about Sharif Cooper.
Okay.
I think he's not getting the love that he deserves. And he was great in the G League last year. He did great in the Summer League last year for the Hawks. I don't know if it's the Hawks didn't want like 2 undersized point guards with Trae Young and Sharif Cooper, but I mean, this is a guy who was given 40-point games in the G League and didn't even get a shot at NBA minutes. I mean, maybe a little bit, but never any significant minutes. Now he's on the Cavs and he looks like a pro. Like the way he plays, he looks like a professional point guard. He looks like he can really work with these guys. So I hope the Cavs really take a chance on this guy and they give him some real minutes in the NBA, especially those first few months, just to see what he can do. There's just something about these undersized point guards that the NBA just keeps trying to push out. You see Isaiah Thomas put up crazy numbers, but never did a contract. Kemba Walker can't find a contract. And I'm hoping that Sharif somehow, being an undersized point guard myself, I hope that Sharif can somehow get a contract with the Cavs.
So for anybody that doesn't know Sharif Cooper's stats, he averaged 22.8 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 7 assists in the G League. And the Cleveland Cavaliers may have the best total roster from a potential standpoint in the league. I think having Sharif Cooper in the organization is great. I mean, who do they even have as a backup point guard right now to Darius Garland?
Ricky Rubio is still there.
Yeah, Sharif is a better fit, in my opinion. He's closer to Darius, which means he's closer to their traditional offense they're going to be running. I think that them drafting Amani Bates was a great draft pick. Whether he pans out or not, it was the great time for them to take a risk or take a shot on a player because Imani has the most upside at where he was drafted compared to everybody else that was there. And so I loved that draft pick by them by being they were aggressive. They've got a great young core. If there's a team he's going to maybe have a chance of getting some minutes, I'm hoping he gets that backup job in Cleveland. I'd love to see it as well.
Yeah, and they have the Mobley brothers now too. They got
Mhm.
they
Both
got
of
the brother, and I was watching the summer league game today, and he had like 15 in the first half. So he looks great. There's obviously going to be some chemistry there, and we know how good Evan Mobley is. So I'm
them.
hoping that Isaiah Mobley pans out, and the Cavs just keep getting this young talent, and I'd be scared of them in the next few years.
Where Cleveland's at, I don't think they've got the star power that Boston did. They don't have the players that have the all-star ceiling that Tatum and Brown did, but it does feel a lot closer to that young Boston core 4 or 5 years ago when everybody was young, they were scrappy, they were winning a lot of games. I like Cleveland a lot. I'm pretty high on them. What I'm keeping a close eye on is a lot of people are talking about the Scoop versus Wemby conversation. Where I do think that people are gonna actually be focusing on in the regular season is Chet versus Wemby. I think that might actually be more of a conversation because they're very similar in build. Obviously, Wemby's longer, but you're talking about the last 2 number 1 picks that both are going into their rookie season because Chet missed the season due to injury. I wanna ask you this, up to this point, who's looked better, Chet or Wemby?
I'm gonna go Chet. I know Victor's. He had a great game tonight.
Yeah, 27
Chet,
tonight really shut up a
yeah.
lot of the haters.
Yeah, he did really bad a couple nights ago, went 2 for 13. But if you watch the game, Wemby shows what he does on the defensive end. Like his presence is always there, backside help, getting blocks. If somebody throws up a bad shot, like most of the time, he's gonna send that away. If you throw up a long three, he's got an 8-foot wingspan. He's gonna block that. But I really like Chet. He's put some weight on. He looks NBA ready now. I've seen some of the moves that he's done in the post on some of these younger guys over the past few days, especially from the Utah games when he was here. He just looks really good, especially on the defensive end. His presence looks really good. So with the weight he's put on, I really like Chet. I really like Chet. And that's no disrespect to Victor. I think he's going to be great as a rookie. But I think now that Chet has had that year of experience in an NBA facility, I'm going to take Chet over Victor right now.
And we're just talking about today, people. So let's not overreact. We're not talking about over the course of their entire careers. Chet should be better today than Wemby because he's been around the league for a year, where Wemby hasn't. Wemby even said after his first game, he didn't really know what he was doing out there, right? There's a lot he has to take in. He's in a totally new country, playing in a new league, in a different system with a different offense. That's a lot to learn. Chet's been in the same organization. He's lived in this country. He knows what it is. So he should be better today. I'm glad to see that Wemby had a big time game tonight because it's amazing how much hate people are ready to throw this guy's way. And it's going to be that way for the rest of the year. He's going to get a lot of it because the NBA wanted to push this guy as much as they did, which means that NBA fans, especially, are ready to push back if he does not play well. So shout out to him for having a good game tonight. The summer league's been interesting. Anybody else standing out to you?
Just a few names specifically. I look at the Jazz, so I like Keontae George has been great. I mean, he dropped 33, and you don't really see that from a guy who hasn't been in the summer league before. You see that a lot from sophomores or
Mhm.
guys who had gotten minutes on an NBA team dropping over 30 points. We see it from Keegan Murray. We see it from Jabari
Hey,
Smith.
Keegan Murray, hold on, man. Hey, get Keegan Murray out of the summer league, bro. This guy was guarding Steph Curry a few months ago. What the heck is he doing in the summer league, bro?
This is a playoff starter for a team that people were like could make it to the Western Conference Finals, broke the record for rookie threes,
What
and
what are we
they
doing?
have this guy playing 25, 30 minutes in a summer league game. I don't know what's going on. You see
It's
these young
getting
guys getting hurt.
ridiculous.
It's really dangerous to have him playing out
Oh,
there. I think we know how good he is. I don't think he needs to play a summer
don't
league
play
game.
him anymore. Just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, I get Houston playing some of their younger guys, because they had a rough season, sure. But come on, Keegan, what are you doing?
This is a playoff team,
Yes,
successful team.
yes, Sacramento.
Oh, well, hey, at least we know that he really is that guy.
He's like that.
Yeah, we see him playing good. Jabari Smith had a great game today, and I
Yep.
mean, he hit a game winner a couple days ago, crazy game winner. But you don't really see that from these guys who got drafted, especially like late first round, and that's what Keontae George was for the Jazz. But he is a smooth player. He gives effort on the defensive end. Like he just looks really good to me. He had a block on a 3-pointer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw that.
I'm excited to see what he does. Max Christie for the Lakers. He's looking like kind of like that Austin Reeves story where we didn't really see much of him, and then all of a sudden he's just going to take off. Like he looks NBA ready out there. I mean, last year he did pretty good in the summer league, but this year he looks posed. He can shoot the ball really consistently. I mean, he had a monster dunk a couple days ago too. Another guy who looks just really good.
This is probably the best summer league to watch yet. You get to see a lot of great young talent, players that are going to have an impact on this league. It is great to see a lot of this young talent continue to progress. One of the things that's been interesting to me is that actually seeing LeBron James coach. We've seen Lay coach in action. I love it.
It,
I
it's
love it. It looks
It's
good on
so
LeBron.
funny. It's so funny to see LeBron in his high shorts. Like it seems like giving more effort to his team than he did on the court sometimes. Running out on the court when some subs were
He did
going
the
on that he
he's
didn't like.
the classic. Hey, what the clock issue? What do we
And then
oh,
yeah, it's great to see LeBron. And I think Rondo was with him. Rondo was like
yeah.
his assistant coach.
Those kids made
So
Rondo look small, dude. They made Rondo look small.
yeah,
Wow.
I saw something that said like LeBron should not look normal when standing in a huddle with his 5 players.
Yeah.
But like every single one of the kids that was out there for Strive for Greatness is the exact same height as LeBron. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy that these kids are 15, 16, 17 years old and are like the same height as LeBron at the 2 spot, at the 1 spot.
It's a different game now, man. It's a different game.
Peach Jam would be terrifying.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of coaches, Greg Popovich just signed a massive deal, resetting the coaching market yet again after Monty Williams. I believe it's an $80 million deal. $80 million for a guy that's going to be in his 80s coaching by the time this one's done. So good for you, Coach Pop, getting that taken care of. As we're closing things out, Roman, the in-season tournament, what is it you wanted to bring up on that?
They talked about it a little bit. They unveiled it on NBA TV and all that kind of stuff, and it was great. And you get these, you know, the 6 different pools of the 5 teams.
Mhm.
And I can't remember who made the point. I think it might have been Richard Jefferson, but people are saying, you know, the NBA is trying to make it like more competitive in the season. I think a lot of what we're going to see is this 6 through 15 guys on the squads that really make the difference. You're not going to see contender teams, somebody like a Giannis, somebody like a LeBron, like a Jokic, Kevin Durant. You're not going to see these types of players really caring about it. Even if their team does make it, it's going to be more of these 6 through 15 guys, these role players coming off the bench who are like, hey, I want that $500,000. I want that money. So we need to go out there and win this thing. It's not going to be these guys who are making, you know, $50 million a year who are going to be making a big difference. But I'm excited. It's going to be the first time we've seen this. So it'll be cool to see how it plays out. But I think we see bench role players like really taking the initiative as soon as we get to like those November, Tuesday and Friday games.
Hey, I'm excited for it, but my question still remains. Whoever wins that first in-season tournament is in one of the most difficult positions in the entire league because the question is, do you actually hang the banner or not?
And I've changed my mind on this. I think you do. I think we need to build a standard around it this matters. Like this means something. And if we can do that, then we get an interesting sort of basketball here in December, halfway through the season. So I think if a team like puts it up there and is like, we won the NBA Cup, we have the first NBA Cup, then it's like, man, there's 2 ways that I could see it. Like, man, like that doesn't mean anything. We could go do that easily. So a team goes and tries to win it. Or like, why are you bragging about that? Like, now we have to go and get one to make it seem less important. So I think it's going to be, I really think if that first team like makes a big deal out of it, then we see it, especially in like year 2, year 3, like really start to matter. So I would love for the first team to like represent it well. We won the first one so that these next teams who have a shot at it are really trying to get it. And I would love for it to be a team that is not a contender too, so that that's all they talk about for this team. It would be amazing.
No, it would not. Roman, let me tell you something.
But
Okay, the Clippers are a contender, But, like, if the Clippers win it, that is not good for basketball
It's
because
great.
no, the Clippers are gonna get crushed for winning it if they hang a banner. It's gonna be the Lakers banners, championship, 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 and then an in-season tournament cup banner
I love
for the
it.
Clippers.
I
That's not
love
good.
it.
You know who I think's gonna win it? The Knicks. I think the Knicks are gonna win it. The Knicks are who I've got winning the in-season tournament, and I do think Knicks fans would go crazy. The Cowboys fans of the NBA would go nuts if they won an in-season tournament. So that's who I'm keeping my eye on for it. But I do agree with you. I think a lot of these guys, LeBron James doesn't care about another $500,000. He's making that in his sleep. But if you're a veteran minimum player, that's like a third of your contract or 20% of your contract. It's a lot of money for those guys. So it's gonna be fun to see. We're gonna be watching it. We're gonna be watching it. Not to take us off topic, but I will. Man, I got caught up with those Instagram ads for some pants. They're these nice pants, man, like kind of like a crossover dress pant. Great for me to wear to like work. Companies out of New Zealand. I'm on the website. My options are slim, fit, or regular. Sure enough, I bought the slims. I don't know what I was thinking because I have not been slim since I had a child. Bro, I got these pants. They got a pleat down the middle. You can't even see the pleat on my thighs, bro. It's bad. I don't even think I could zip them all the way up. And I'm not even a big dude. Like I'm a skinny guy.
But do
But
you know what slim fit means, Moses? You are
yes,
definitely not slim fit.
hey man, I used to be. That's my problem is I used to be. So I thought like, well, maybe the answer's no. I'm not slim fit anymore, and I never will be again. It's yeah,
I mean, I weigh 20 pounds less than you, and I don't think I would even go slim fit.
yeah,
I don't know what you were thinking
yeah.
there.
I don't know
That was
what
a
I was
bad
thinking
decision.
either. It was terrible. It was terrible. I got caught up in a 4th of July sale. I was feeling good, and then the pants came, and I've been feeling bad.
Maybe I need to try them on. We'll see how it goes.
Hey, you gotta come by the house though again, because your slides get here on Tuesday. We got the Nike Calm slides. If anybody saw those, there was a surprise drop on the Nike app, and I scooped up a pair for myself and a pair for my brother because he was out in Lake Powell. I knew he wasn't gonna get them, so I came through for him and got a pair. But I do actually have some dress shirts you probably should try on that I will never fit in again in my life. That probably will still fit you for the next little bit, maybe at least the next few months, unless you gain another 20 pounds this season.
Hey,
Good grief.
hey, don't see me in a year. Hopefully I'm a little bit closer to your weight class.
Hey, man. Well, hopefully it's better than how it's showing up on me. I'm like, I don't know, man.
But it's gonna have to show up better. I mean, I'm
Man,
shorter than you. I'm like a
yeah, that's
couple
true.
inches shorter than you. It's got to show up a lot better. Or I'm
Well,
gonna
that's true.
if I look like that, it's gonna be like that's only gonna be like 180 then for me, and that's bad weight. I
I'm
want that
pushing,
weight.
I'm pushing 2 Hunsky, bro. This is uncharted waters for me. I don't even, I
That's
don't
bad weight.
listen, man. I don't look in the mirror and go, that looks like 200 pounds. I don't think that. Like, in my mind, when I pictured 200, it didn't look like this. It didn't look like this. But let me tell you something. You won't see me making this mistake when it comes to pants again. Mark my words. What's today's date? It's July
The
9th,
9th.
2023. I'm not making this mistake again. I had to sweet talk these people in emails just to get them to let me do an exchange because all sales were final.
But they let you exchange?
I got to do the exchange, but it's a one time. So I got to make sure I don't miss.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. Like, am
Uh-huh.
I an XL? Am I not a large? Like, what am I supposed to do, man? I
So
don't
you
know.
went large slim fit instead of large
Hey,
regular.
man, we don't need to get, we don't need to, hey, we're not going backward. We're going forward, Roman. We're not going backward. we're not, hey, we're not going backward. We're going
Oh,
forward.
it sounds like you were not slim.
I don't know, man. It's a moment of weakness.
Uh,
It's a moment of weakness. You don't need to make me feel worse than I already do,
okay.
okay?
Yeah, I'm done. Not well, I'm done. I give up
You're
on
not
it. I
saying
give up.
anything I didn't say to myself in the mirror that night, okay? You think I didn't walk in front of the mirror and go, "Who told you you were a large, slim fit, Moses?" You think I didn't say that to myself? You don't wanna know what happened? My wife
Oh,
literally came and told me, she said, "You can't talk to yourself like that. We have a son. We have a child." That's what she told me, okay? So
tired of hearing that.
you think I didn't say all this
Oh,
stuff to myself? Oh my gosh. Anyways, Anyways, that brings us to the end of this episode, man. Episode 10. I appreciate you guys coming back. We took a week off, but we are back. We are here. Like we said, this summer has so much to offer as far as NBA news. We're excited to see where things go. Please keep coming back here for all things basketball because Swish List has it here for you. Once again, if you don't already, please, you can find us on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. We're on all your favorite platforms. We're on your baby mama's favorite platforms. We're on your children's favorite platforms. We're on your grandma's favorite platform. Okay. So please, if you haven't already, go and give us a follow. Share the podcast with one person that does not know basketball because if they're ever going to learn, it's going to happen right here. So thank you so much for being here for episode 10. Roman, send us off, please.
Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to all the new listeners. If you haven't subscribed or followed, it's getting ridiculous.
There it is.
It's getting ridiculous. Come on now. Thank you guys for listening. Swish List Podcast out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Swish List Podcast. Catch us on social, and we'll see you next week.